Third gene key. Through the eyes of a child. Programming partner, 50th gene key. Codon ring, the ring of life and death. 3, 20, 23, 24, 27, 42. Physiology, navel. Amino acid, leucine. The third shadow, chaos. From chaos to cosmos. The third shadow lies at the core of all our beliefs that the human individual is basically powerless in comparison to nature or the infinite. This is the programming domain of both religion and science, the two cornerstones of human belief. On the one hand, we have religion, which separates humanity from nature by the interposition of a god or gods, thereby creating a division in our entire unconscious reality. This reality must then be based upon the worship of either our own or someone else's projection of what God is. Such a situation, in turn, creates the notion of free will and its judgment by the presiding deity. On the other hand, we have science, which sees our nature as predetermined by our genes, which come pre-programmed only for survival, thus leaving all human beings victims of the vagaries of chance. In either scenario, the individual comes off badly. We are either shown divinity, only to be denied it, or we are shown freedom, and then placed in a world of merciless competition in which only the lucky or strong can thrive. Perhaps more than any other, the third shadow captures the essence of the role of human DNA through an understanding of the structure of the single cell, the prime unit of life on our planet. Through an understanding of the single cell, we will see how both of the belief systems have grown out of a very natural organic progression that has brought us to exactly where we stand now, at a great evolutionary fork. As a planetary consciousness, we now stand before a chasm, and humanity's response to this threshold must either lead to chaos or it must lead to cosmos. Never before in history has the future of our entire planet and all its organisms hung in the balance of human behavior. It is interesting to note that the words chasm and chaos are derived from the same root, since this third gene key governs what we humans understand as chaos. It is also intriguing to note that the original meaning of the word chaos is closer to primordial space. It was only due to a misunderstanding based on fear that the word came to be equated with disorder. In order to get to the bottom of the profound mystery within the third shadow, it is perhaps helpful to overview the direction of modern scientific thinking in response to our current evolutionary fork. Contemporary mainstream scientific thinking is still based mostly upon two giants, Newton in physics and Darwin in biology. Despite what we hear, the scientific world is still reeling from the aftershock of Einstein and what he discovered. Einstein's breakthrough opened physics and all of science to vast dimensions that can barely be comprehended. All an honest physicist can say for sure anymore is that the very bedrock of scientific thinking has been so severely shaken that no scientific premise can ever be taken for granted again. Einstein's quantum world has still not filtered through to mainstream biology, except for a few brave pioneers who are willing to put their reputations on the line. Darwin's dogma of genetic determinism prevails and still remains at the root of all modern medical practice. However, a new quantum biology is indeed in the process of forming at the frontiers of modern science, and it holds many fascinating possibilities. At the core of the new biology lies a completely new understanding of the single cell. According to the mainstream view, the brain of the cell resides within its nucleus, where the genetic instructions for life, DNA, also reside. The thinking goes that if the brain is in the nucleus and the nucleus contains the instructions, then the instructions control the cell and therefore us. However, Quantum biology has discovered something very remarkable that directly challenges this. The brain of the cell does not reside within the nucleus after all, but in the cellular membrane, which provides an interface with the environment. In a nutshell, this means that life is designed to be cooperative rather than competitive. This new biological view makes enormous sense when considered alongside quantum physics, which holds that all of life is interrelated and holistic rather than separatist. In the old view, we humans are the victims of our selfish genes. In the new view, there are no victims, only a huge interconnected and interdependent cosmos. The original Chinese name for this third hexagram of the I Ching is an unusual expression that is traditionally translated as difficulty at the beginning. This is a profound insight because chaos is about beginnings. Modern scientific chaos theory is founded upon tiny variations in initial conditions within a system. In terms of the evolution of life, however, the single cell's prime directive is indeed to survive at all costs, which is what forms the consciousness of this third shadow. The greatest challenge in evolution is always at the beginning, because every cell has to learn to fend for itself. Only those that become strong will survive. Likewise, human beings are locked into single-celled consciousness at the frequency of the third shadow. This is the same consciousness that dominates across our planet, and its byproduct is what we call chaos. However, chaos is really only a perspective that conceals a hidden pattern that inevitably leads to order. If life truly were that selfish, it would never have made it off the starting block. According to the law of fractals, the same law that governs single cells also governs individual human beings, which means that early in our evolution we were programmed to survive. Our survival instincts are rooted in the primitive aspects of our brains, which became dominant as we learned to evolve from our ape-like ancestors. Most of our modern beliefs and ideologies are based on these ancient aspects of our awareness that are rooted in fear, and we remain walled off within our individual cells. Our mainstream scientific thinking is still based on the divisive worldview that there exists no organizing force in the universe other than chance. Likewise, our religious thinking is locked into the same single-cell consciousness, and so we have divided the world into an inside and an outside, an us and then God. What then does all of this really mean, and how does it affect you in your daily life? One answer lies in the polarity of this shadow, the 50th shadow of corruption. It means that you are only trapped by your own thinking. It is you who corrupts the data within your DNA by only allowing in a frequency that activates its most primitive components. The wider you open yourself to the chasm that lies ahead of you, the more you will realize that there never was any chaos. It was all simply the difficulty at the beginning. It is this third shadow that makes human beings afraid to change, despite the fact that we are wired to change. In order to evolve, a human being must embrace chaos rather than try to protect against it. The third shadow causes human beings to distrust life itself and therefore adopt the old survival strategy known as dog-eat-dog. Incredibly, when you trust in chaos and allow your environment to mutate you rather than trying to control it and stay the same, the greatest magic is revealed to you, that in chaos there is and always has been a vast underlying transformative order. Repressive nature, anal. Our deep-seated fear that life is simply based on chance leads to one of the first great human control mechanisms, that of anal retention. Despite the discoveries made by Freud regarding this phenomenon, it has been known about for millennia by many systems of yoga and meditation. Fear activates a very subtle restriction of the muscles around the anus, which in turn affects our entire breathing pattern. As our breathing becomes shallower, the fear manifests through our need to maintain control over our lives. Almost all human beings suffer from some level of anal retention, ranging from mild to acute. It is only when we begin to touch the core of the primal fear within us that our system begins to let go of this deep-seated tensing of our being. The more we feel and allow the fear, the more we let go into the embrace of the cosmos, and the more we realize how deeply we are held and protected by it. Reactive nature, disordered. The adverse reaction to our fear of life is to express it outwardly as rage. The result of this is the creation of the very thing that terrifies us, chaos and disorder. These natures have absolutely no predictable direction, rhythm, or purpose. They bring into the world the very vibration that terrifies the repressed nature, sometimes in the form of aggression, sometimes anarchy, and always destruction. Again, there are varying degrees of this disease, from the mild to the acute. Every time we stop trusting in life and believe in our fears, we begin to co-create the vibration of chaos. Whenever that fear turns into anger, even in the most mundane circumstances, it carries a destructive force that will inevitably come back to haunt us. In this sense, all anger that is not owned fully strengthens the frequency of the third shadow in the world. The third gift, innovation, the end of island mentality. What is so wonderful about the third shadow is that despite its narrow, fear-based, mono-celled outlook on life, it also holds the secret to our future. All one has to do is look back at our own evolution to see where it must inevitably lead, to the third gift, the gift of innovation. As single-celled organisms multiplied all across our planet, evolution prepared itself for a quantum leap, the great transition into multicellular life. If it were true that deep within the nucleus of every cell a selfish drive were paramount, then it is highly unlikely that any two cells could ever cooperate, since their very design would drive them to compete. The genius of the cell and its true brain must therefore lie where the quantum biologists say it lies, within the cell's membrane. We know that the membrane allows the single cell to respond to its environment, but it goes one stage further than this. It must allow its DNA to be influenced by its environment. This is the foundational principle of quantum biology, and it is regarded as nothing short of heresy in the face of current mainstream biological dogma. What we can now see is that life does indeed work in this way. Millions of years ago, single-celled consciousness made a quantum leap into multi-celled consciousness, which means that the survival-based programming within DNA must have either mutated or adjusted itself in order for the cell to be assimilated into a greater organism. When we apply the same metaphor to humanity, what we see is the empowerment of the human individual through the third gift of innovation. Innovation is built into life. In other words, life itself is designed to transcend its own initial programming, difficulty at the beginning, and discover new and higher forms of consciousness. Beyond selfishness and chaos lies cooperation and innovation. Innovation only occurs when you truly begin to think for yourself. This may sound like an everyday occurrence, but in fact it is relatively uncommon. In order to be truly innovative, you have to attain a very high frequency that allows you to see beyond the collective worldview. The gift of innovation is far more exciting than simply being creative. It implies that you have permanently escaped the fear-based perspective of the shadow frequency. Innovation thrives on optimism, although this is not the kind of optimism that is built upon hope. True optimism is the dynamic energy at the heart of creation. Through the third gift, you begin to tap into the higher aspects within your own DNA. It is not that the DNA itself changes, but that the frequency passing through it activates its hidden programming. This is how single-celled life gave way to cooperative life, and it is how human selfishness must and will give way to collective consciousness. The whole is far more powerful than its individual human components. That is the rub. Innovation implies cooperation by its very nature. In order to mutate life to a higher order, you must integrate and synthesize. The path of innovation broadly means to improve something through the introduction of a new element or elements. Those who work with the third gift are life's great synthesizers because they understand the primal law wound into the substructure of all life, that unity equals efficiency. This is the integral message encoded in the codon group, known as the Ring of Life and Death. It is all based upon change, which is what the Chinese words I Ching mean, the Book of Changes. Life is continually mutating, and as it mutates, it transcends and includes those levels and views it has just transcended. Who, what, and wherever you are, if you are not continually transcending, then you are dying. The third gift also teaches us something else wonderful about synthesis, which has to do with another often overlooked human gift, the gift of play. If you truly want to see the genius of innovation, you only have to watch a young child at play. When seen through the eyes of the third shadow, children appear to create nothing but chaos. But to the higher eyes of the third gift, a child is the living expression of genius. If we can recall the image of the cellular membrane allowing in certain frequencies from the environment which then impact on our DNA, this is exactly what a young child mirrors back at us. The child both mutates its environment, as any parent knows, but is also mutated by its environment. The gift of innovation requires, then, that adults also allow themselves to be shaped by their environment. This means that you must be as open-hearted and open-minded as a child. All preconceived notions, dogmas, or beliefs must be discarded when they no longer serve the developing synthesis. Innovation also requires a deep sense of inner trust. As you continue to work with this gift, you continually update and change your position. Even though you may not yet see how everything fits together, you feel the underlying unifying spirit, and above all else, you have enormous fun. Through the gift of innovation, humanity must now improvise in order to survive the coming centuries. Just like those early single-celled organisms, we must mutate to become a complex multi-celled organism. Just as those early organisms developed a nervous system culminating in a brain, we developed our governments and our modern global communication-rich culture. However, our greatest innovation is yet to come, which is literally to relocate our brain from the cranium to the far more advanced solar plexus system. Just as the cell's true brain is in its membrane rather than its nucleus, so our true brain is through our emotional system. Like the cellular membrane, the solar plexus system determines what frequencies are allowed in and out of the body. Thus, as the individual mutates to receive higher frequencies, these frequencies unlock the higher organizing principles of collective life embedded within our DNA. It is not we who make this decision, but life. These codes are already waiting inside us, threaded along those mazy pathways deep within our DNA. This is the sacred secret. Life is designed to keep on innovating, and the old human with its single-celled island mentality has had its day. The third siddhi, innocence. All play and no work. In discussing the third shadow and its gift, we have travelled into some fairly complex territory in order to understand the true depth and relevance of this third gene key. Actually, it is really one of the simplest of all to understand once you move out of mental territory. At the absolute zenith of its frequency, the third siddhi is about innocence. This siddhi reminds us that all of life, and that includes human beings, is essentially innocent. Our most common misconception as human beings is that we are not a part of life. Our mind seems to tell us that we can control life, but in truth, this is an illusion born of the brain. Human beings are an instrument of life, an experiment in life, but we can never be masters of life as long as we are only a part of life. Human beings remain a brain-centered species today. We have seen how deeply we feel the need for a center or a nucleus to be in control of life. This need is expressed within every level of our thinking and at every level of our society. It is epitomized in our need to find a God. The thought that no one might be in control terrifies us. What would happen if the world had no governments? What might happen if we had no religion, education, police, army, or money? Because we do not trust life, the only answer we can give to this question is chaos. The truth is that we do not know what would happen, but the child inside us longs to find out. That is what this third siddhi is all about. It is about no barriers, no laws, and no work. Just play. As a species, humanity has hugely misjudged itself. We represent the cutting edge of consciousness on Earth at this moment in time. One day, when the human we see now is a relic of the past, we will look back at this time through the third siddhi and wonder to ourselves why we became so serious during this epoch in our evolution. From the viewpoint of the third siddhi, we are eminently laughable, in the warmest possible way. That human awareness had to go through a phase in which it believed itself to be the center of the universe is an enormous joke to the third siddhi. However, to a child, play is absolutely serious. The toy in the child's hands does become the center of their universe, just as our individual lives become the center of our universe. We are innocently unaware of the magnitude of our great good fortune to be alive and playing out this epic exploration of consciousness with all of its toys in the world of form. One day, inevitably, the child will grow up. Humanity will evolve towards its awesome final destiny of global and celestial harmony. But one thing is certain, consciousness will never grow up. It will keep on exploring, playing and experimenting forever, all because its nature is innocence. Life is innocent. We are life, and therefore we are innocent. That is the equation for the next millennium. As the third siddhi comes into the world, which it will do very shortly, a great remembering of our innocence will emerge in humanity, because the first vessels of the new human destiny, spoken of in the 55th gene key, will all be children. The strange thing about these children is that the consciousness within them will never grow up and become serious. Their awareness will function in an entirely new and different way from our current brain-centered awareness. Their brain will be the environment itself. It will be inside every other human being, creature, plant, stone, and star. We cannot yet imagine that kind of cosmic consciousness, but it will soon come pouring into the world like a great breaking wave. Humanity will change from within, as life always has. It is shaped by its own environment. If it becomes a threat to that environment, then life relays that message back into its cellular structure, causing it to mutate a more efficient program. This is not a decision that can be made by humanity, but by the whole organism. There are no losers in this game because every cell innocently contributes its own unique information to the whole. In the process of mutation, new life codes are activated, and any cells that do not mutate will simply die off. This is a totally natural and organic process that is already beginning to occur to humanity. We fear it because we do not trust our own innocence. The great human fear is of losing our own uniqueness. If we lost that and became an amalgamated soup, it would indeed be a step backwards in evolution. However, evolution does not travel backwards, it only knows progress. By giving up our own individual identity, we actually create another greater individual identity that is both collective and individual at the same time. The human body itself is the prime example of the direction that humanity is moving. Our body evolved from single-celled amoebas responding to their environment. Not a single cell within our body can afford to be selfish, or we would die. Life spontaneously discovered in its innocence that the easiest way to keep evolving was to integrate all those competing individual cells into a single body. What incredible things life discovers when it is left alone to play. This is the central message contained within the Ring of Life and Death, that the chaos of play is to be deeply trusted and revered. Play is the expression of genius, and genius always finds a new solution to the challenges it meets along the way. We are all really children of the cosmos, and our only real job is to let go of our seriousness and find the delight in every exquisite jewel that life places before us. From observing this third gene key and its various levels of frequency, you can perhaps feel the wonder and the scale of the experiment you are involved in. As Einstein said, God doesn't play dice. The human brain was not designed to grasp insights as profound as these. The certainty of order within the universe is a feeling that can only be captured by a more advanced system of awareness in human beings that our mystics have called by many names. Above all, it is equated with the human heart and the feeling of love and unity that lies between all creatures. Your true home is not located within your body, nor is there somewhere in the universe a single center through which everything is orchestrated. The center you are looking for is the feeling of love itself,